Every project worth doing starts with the right foundation, and picking the right foundation with the correct PCC upper and lower starts right here. When I first started shopping around for AR9 receiver sets, I was confused at first, but in this video, we're going to help you figure out the right AR9 receiver set for your next PCC build by breaking down the differences, talking through the different options, and even picking out a set for our own custom build while giving you everything you need to know before you pick a receiver set out for yourself. What's up everybody, my name is CJ with AT3 Tactical. So first of all, the lower receiver is the part that houses all the controls you interact with, like the trigger, the safety, magazine release, and bolt catch. It's also where the buffer tube, stock or brace, and pistol grip attach. The lower receiver is the serialized firearm itself. It's the part that just can't be shipped right to your door. The lower will require you to fill out a good old 4473 from a federal firearms licensed dealer or FFL to transfer right to you. Standard AR-15 lowers share a lot in common with their AR-9 counterparts, but there are some huge differences. The first of those differences starts with the magazine you want to use in your AR build. Like we said in the first episode, you can pick between a few different styles of magazines. There are others out there, but the most common are going to be Glock or Colt. Each type of magazine is going to have different design characteristics, and therefore, some of the parts and pieces you select in the rest of your build are going to be different. The reason your magazine decision is so important is because it sets the foundation for all your other decisions. One suggestion when picking a lower is to look at the magazines you already have on hand. If you have a bunch of Glock magazines, you should probably go with Glock, whereas if you EDC a SIG or something else, you can probably find a lower that accepts those magazines as well. For our build, because Glock magazines are way more common, budget-friendly, and it's easy to get extensions and replacement parts for Glock mags, we're going to go with Glock magazine lower for our PCC build. Having parts that are meant to work and fit together is going to make a much better running and feeling gun. It is also a plus to have your lower tailor-made to fit your magazines, so you can have a lower that is going to have a flared magwell, for example, to help with those faster reloads, just because you have extra room in the magwell area. Speaking of the magazine, when it comes to the magazine release, you often see a paddle system on AR9s instead of the standard buttons on AR-15s. This is because most pistol magazines latch in the front of the mag using a lever design to interface with the front of the magazine rather than towards the back like standard AR mags use. You may not be used to seeing that weird claw when picking up the AR9 lower. On a AR-15, the ejector is a small plunger that pushes out the spent casing after firing, and it typically is part of the bolt carrier group. On most blowback 9mm ARs or even conversion kits, you will find there's a little claw that protrudes from the top of the lower receiver. The purpose of this is to yeet that spent casing out of the ejection port. But with some other systems like radio delays, you may find it very similar to how typical ARs work, with an ejector that is built right into the bolt. The ejector on the AR9 is probably the #1 thing you may need to tune a little in a new build to make sure rounds eject reliably, so pay attention to this little thing and try not to damage it. So before we talk about the lower options to pick from for our build, we need to talk about a super important consideration before picking out an AR9 lower. There are options like the Sullivan Arms AR-15 conversion block, which is a drop-in magwell block with a built-in ejector. This is a reliable and budget-friendly option if you already have invested in a quality AR-15 lower and you want to give 9mm a try. It's important to keep in mind that if you are going to convert your existing AR-15, you're going to have to build out a dedicated 9mm upper, which we're going to talk about later in this episode. In this series, we're going to build a dedicated AR-9 because when I look at how much an AR-15 lower with a conversion block is, I'm not actually saving a ton of money by doing that option. I also don't want to spend the 15 or so extra minutes before I hit the range to convert my AR-15, and I want to run with something that is going to be reliable because it's designed to work specifically with Glock mags and customized to what I want. For the option that we're going with in our build, it's machined from a solid piece of 775 T6 aluminum, and it's built like a tank. It's hard-coated, so corrosion won't be a problem, and it's got a flared magwell for those slick reloads that I'm always trying to get better at. It also has a threaded bolt catch pin and integrated trigger guard. The feature that I care about most, though, is that integrated last round bolt hold open, which is a must-have for me. The Angstadt Arms 0940 lower is clean, simple, and a solid choice for anyone looking to build an AR9. If you're looking for more of a budget option, then something like the AERO Precision EPC9 is a great value option. Something to keep in mind, however, is that this EPC9 is designed to work with the equivalent upper, so reliability may be a concern here if you venture off the beaten path and go with a different upper, so try to keep this one in the family if you can. Now let's move on to picking out an upper for our build. Think of the upper receiver as the top half of your rifle, where all the cycling function happens. I'm talking about the barrel, the bolt carrier, the charging handle. This is the part that gives your rifle its personality. You can swap uppers to change caliber, barrel length, or even just the look of your gun. On an AR9 upper, you're still going to have things like an ejection port for your brass to fly out of, and Picatinny rails for optics to be mounted to. Unlike its bigger brother though, the AR-15, the AR9 uppers are designed specifically for 9mm rounds. For example, the ejection port is smaller, which makes sense, right? Since the 9mm brass is physically shorter, the ejection window doesn't have to be as long as the typical AR-15 ejection port. Moving on to what we're going to go with in this build, and yeah, as you might have guessed, it's going to be the Angstadt. It's a solid choice for anybody building a 9mm AR because it's designed to pair with the Angstadt lower, and works with most standard AR-15 handguards. It's made from the same aluminum as the lower, making them super durable and light. Plus, it's versatile, working with both dedicated 9mm lowers or conversion blocks if I wanted to throw this 9mm upper on a different converted lower down the road. When you go searching our website, at3tactical.com, you'll notice that this receiver set isn't exactly the budget option. So if you want something a bit more basic, you can do something like the KE-Arms 9mm upper or the EPC9 upper that can work with a variety of lowers themselves. But if you're looking for something that is the most reliable setup or things like last round bolt hold open, then you're probably best served by a matching receiver set like what we're doing in our build. Now that we have our upper and lower all picked out, we need to pick out the one piece that's arguably the most different in an AR9, the bolt carrier. But when we look at a standard AR9 bolt carrier and an AR-15 bolt carrier, we can see that there's a ton of differences. But what are those differences? Well, to know that and to know which one we're going with in our build, go check out this video right here.